So moments ago, the Trump administration just had the U.S. Secret Service come to my house. You might be wondering why. Because yesterday I made a post that said 8647 Trump wants to be a
That's a choice.
and I will not be intimidated into not voicing my opinions.
And it's a choice to voice your opinion.
We're walking on the beach. We went to the beach to prepare for this week, which
That's
was
a
the launch
choice.
of my book, and to think about the book and to prepare to answer questions about
Those
it.
are choices.
And we were walking back towards the road, and we saw in the sand someone had already.
And that's a choice which direction they took.
And Patrice, my wife, said, "Why would someone put an address in the sand?" And I said, "I don't know." And we stood over it, and I said, "I think it's some kind of like political message." And she said, 86, when I was a server, she did a lot of work in restaurants, meant to remove an item from the menu when you ran out of ingredients. And I said, well, to me, as a kid, it always meant to leave a place, to ditch a place. I said, that's really clever. So then she said, you should take a picture of that. And
That's a choice.
And I posted it on
That's a
my
choice.
Instagram account.
That's a
And
choice.
thought nothing more of it until
That's a
I
choice.
heard through her that people were saying it was some sort of a call for assassination, which is crazy. But I took it down.
That's another choice.
I don't want to be associated with violence of any kind.
Maria arrived from Honduras in February of 2005.
That's a choice. She came here illegally.
The country after not appearing at a hearing.
She did not appear. That's a
She
choice.
would voluntarily return to her home country.
Me dolería tanto dejar mis hijos.
It would be extremely painful to be separated from my children.
That's another choice that she's making. But as Tom Holman would say, not a problem. We would not separate families. Her children can go with her. Good morning and welcome to another episode of Iconic Freedom, the formula. We are setting a standard for accountability and responsibility. The ability to respond to your choices and the ownership of those choices. That's your accountability and everything that follows. I thought those clips were rather timely, actually, for what I want to talk about today, which is talking about the forensics of choice. So, breaking it down last week about responsibility and accountability, and I enjoy doing this in this manner. I think it benefits myself, first of all, because I enjoy it, but then second of all, because I think if there are some people listening and they get something from this, then it might help them on their journey. And I say that at the end of every podcast every week. And I think sometimes breaking it down, it probably supports and helps people to maybe rethink something that they had thought once before. I think that a lot of times people have this thing about they have illusion of no choice. Oh, I didn't have a choice, and you think about it, it's like one of the most disempowering phrases in existence, right? I mean, what people probably really mean is, I didn't like the options, so I convinced myself that I didn't have any. And, denial of choice is, to be honest, it's kind of a breeding ground for just being a victim, for your victimhood. An emotion will motivate a decision or a choice. So, and at that moment, it pulls you out of reality. Okay, so we've talked about that. And you have to own that before you can move forward. So we talked about how emotions are those little indicators that just tell you, pay attention to something. And so they can motivate you towards a decision or a choice. But if you get deep into emotion, then that's going to pull you out of reality. And then if you don't own that you are now out of reality, the likelihood of you moving forward is practically zero. It's not just like about owning the choice itself, right? But it's owning the state that you were in when you made it. Where some people will act like, they're in a situation like you watched in those clips that they don't want to own. Especially Comey, he doesn't want to own that he has a TDS syndrome or that Krassenstein guy has a TDS syndrome. That the minute they start thinking of President Trump, they're emotional and they can't manage themselves and they're out of reality. And so this is, what happens is if you don't own this part of yourself and own that piece of motivation and self-interest, then you're going to get emotionally hijacked, right? And you'll repeat it. And of course, then you'll probably call it something like fate or bad luck or whatever. But understand this, that denial of choice is a breeding ground for being a victim. And it's one thing that you see patterns and you see situations to address, but you don't really see them as problems. Because problems, now language matters, problems make people think, oh no, I have to deal with something. If life keeps feeling like a loop, it's not bad luck. It's unowned patterns. If life keeps feeling like a loop, it's not bad luck. It's unowned patterns. It's basically a pattern of avoidance. You just don't want to take ownership. You've heard this so many times this year, especially. Life isn't happening to you. It's happening because of you and all the choices you make and everything that follows. If you notice, like, people of really high integrity and health, people that have paid attention to their health, they follow the internal authority that they have, they don't make incorrect choices in life. They own it. And you know what's so amazing is if they make a choice and it's a little off, they have the wherewithal to self-correct. And that's an amazing thing. That's what you want. You want to be in that place. Patterns will repeat themselves until responsibility and accountability intervenes. Your patterns will continue to repeat themselves until you develop responsibility and accountability so that those things will intervene. So, I know for me, the best part of my growth was when I could say, I did this. I'm the one that made that choice. And it's not blame, it's freedom. Oh my gosh, I can't even tell you how great it felt to be able to own stuff that I had tried to suppress or push down, or I just tried to ignore just because I didn't want to face it. But the great thing was that once you face it, it's done. It loses the power that it's had over you. Because when you deny something, when you deny a choice and the responsibility and the accountability of the choice, that outcome, all you're doing is hiding. And then you're always in fear. You're always manipulating and cajoling and trying to, get things to go in a particular way so that you don't get found out, so that you don't get exposed. So being able to say, I made that choice, I did this. Not like, those people that were in those clips. They didn't want to own their stuff. The woman who was an illegal immigrant, she came here. Listen, she first started off by coming here illegally. Then she had the next choice, which was she needed to show up to court. She didn't do that. Then she tried to say that, I just never received the information. Then she's gotten written notice that she's being deported. Now she's sitting there saying that she doesn't want to go back. Oh, okay. So that's really your motivation for staying and hiding, is that you don't want to go back. But you made the choice from the beginning. It's like Comey sitting there making the comment about, I didn't expect it to turn into this. That's an amazing statement to make. Okay, maybe you didn't. But you made every choice leading up to the moment where it did become what it became. And the same with that Krasenstein kid. Is like, listen, you made a choice to post something. I don't care what your intention is. We don't care about anybody's story, right? We don't care about Comey's story. We don't care about Krasenstein's story. We don't care about the illegal immigrant story. What we care about are the choices, and we care about the accountability and the responsibility. All of those things matter in a sense of a person's integrity And if you're listening to them and you're watching their story, if something within what they're doing resonates with you, that's a point of contention, and that's a point of highlighting something and being able to shine a light on it for yourself so that you can correct it. I don't care if whatever they do, their schmutz is their schmutz. This is about you being able to clean that part of yourself up and that particular situation. So we did talk about, that growth begins with, I own it, that kind of stuff. But there is no development of yourself without self-reflection and self-correction. And if you are an individual that is not willing to do those two things, then you know what? There's no change. I should have put it on there, but I didn't. But this congresswoman who is now being indicted because of her pushing and shoving somebody at a facility last week. They asked her, given what you know now, would you do anything different? And she said no. It's like you have no self-evaluation. You can't even see that the choices that you make created the situation that you're now experiencing. You're not even willing to own the contribution of the choice and everything that follows. You can do all you want to try and deny reality, but reality will not deny you. And, there's something really interesting about reality. I had this conversation with a friend this week, and when she and I were discussing it, it occurred to me earlier in the day that reality is reality. It exists. People say, oh, it is what it is. Well, in some ways it kind of is. But we have projected onto reality. We have projected onto so much in life that we can't see clearly the observation in front of us. And unless we're able to do that because we're out of emotion, we're into reality, if we're not willing to do that, then our growth is going to be stunted, to be honest, right? And, the bill's going to come due eventually because reality, look what's going on with former President Biden. The bill is coming due. All of these people lied, cajoled, manipulated, shamed, whatever they could do in order to shut people up. But reality will always have its way. It will always have its day. It will always have the sun shining on it at some point. And whether you're ready or not, it's going to get paid. That's just the way it works. And, listen, you can scam yourself and think that it's not going to, but it will. It will eventually. The one thing that I wanted to make sure is that I can't remember who said this. I feel like it was Ayn Rand said it at one point that, people wanting to be saved. Nobody's coming. Nobody's coming to save you. Life is a path of one. This is a path of one that you must take up the gauntlet. You must be your own hero. And I will say this. Everyone's story starts with the choices they made, which creates the outcomes they experience. Everyone's story will start with the choices they made, which created the outcomes they experience. What's amazing about that statement is whether or not people understand the story I'm telling. Am I saying that I made a choice? Hey, I elected to do this instead of this. I made a choice to go there instead of here. I decided and made the choice to turn here and not turn there. Then the experience that they have is basically a collection of that. The outcome is a collection of all of those choices. Breaking it down to those clips that we saw in the beginning. Krasenstein says, I went on social media, I made a choice. Out of that choice, the FBI, CIA, whoever, Secret Service decided to visit me. Listen, you made the choice. Now you have to own it. But what did he do instead? He wanted to blame the president. And then he wanted to sit there and kind of smear the president and call him a dictator, whatever, because they're all doing that. Okay, whatever. It's not about that. This is more about the forensics of his choice and that he's not taking ownership. His behavior is what not taking ownership looks like. Comey's behavior and responses are what not taking ownership of the choice looks like. The illegal woman, her choices, her outcomes are a result of her not being responsible and accountable. That's what it looks like, not being responsible in your choices. Nobody is coming to save you. No matter how much they say that they will, they are not. So what is the only rescue? Again, choice. But this time is the freedom of doing it conscientiously. With a conscious choice, you can then observe the outcome and then make the next choice. It is a beautiful dance that you do with yourself and reality. You make the choices that serve you. And how beautiful it is that you are now aware of the choice. You're not sitting there trying to make a victim of yourself by saying, oh, I didn't have a choice. I have such bad luck. It's like, no, I had a choice. I made a choice. Even in the times that I thought I didn't have a choice, I still had a choice. I said this to somebody the other day, and we both started laughing. I said, not making a choice is making a choice, because life is still going to go on, whether or not you make the choice. So do it or don't do it. But that is a choice. To not make a choice is to make a choice. But if you do this, if you consciously make choice, if you break it down for yourself and have the understanding of what real choice is for you, then you can start that development of responding to the choice and owning the choice and everything that follows. If you don't like your life, if you have issues, problems in your life, don't fix the outcome. Change the input. If you don't like your life, don't fix the outcome, change the input. Because the outcome is the outcome. Then you make another choice. You can't change the outcome. You can't change what was, what happened. You can't, because it's happened, right? It's in the past. But what you can do is change the input from what you do next, and then what you do next, and what you do next. And that is where it's going to matter. You don't get the life you wished for. You get the life you chose. And when you don't like what you see, the question isn't, why did this happen to me? The question is, what did I choose that brought this into being? What choices did I make that created the situation that I am now experiencing? And we are at the end of another podcast. Thank you so much for joining me. Hey, I hope you enjoy your holiday weekend. Salute and hats off to all of our service people on this Memorial Day as we remember those that gave the ultimate sacrifice in what they thought was a righteous choice for themselves in defending liberty and their self-interest of protecting those that they cared about. Hey, all the links are down below. Follow me on Twitter, on X, on TikTok, on Truth, on Facebook. I'm all over the place. If something today resonated with you and it's moving you forward in your own development, hey, you know what? Shoot me an email, drop a comment down below, or even better, share this with your family and friends. You never know how it's going to help them in their pursuit. And, maybe bookmark this. It's always great to do that, so if you want to go back and listen to it again, you can. And until next time, I say stay sharp, stay free, and let each care for self, and all will be cared for.